The Best Ramen in the World by Project Equipment, Chapter 4. Flashback 2 years ago. Naruto was reading the latest news on his scroll while sitting in the cashier's portion of the shop. It was a relatively lax day as it was the middle of the week. It was also about 3 in the afternoon, so the lunch rush had just subsided. So having nothing better to do, he got out his scroll and scrolled through the news. He was still amazed by the technology of this world. It was so much more advanced than the elemental nations. While his homeworld had laptops and TVs, by the time he left, this portable handheld device was on a whole new level. The applications were limitless, and one could access anything from news to games or even music. Granted, the people of this world might have had to evolve faster due to the lack of chakra to defend themselves, he mused. He wondered if he should introduce chakra into this world. Naruto knew that this world didn't need it, but what if he found the deserving? Absolutely not, idiot. Oh no, you don't. Don't screw up like the old man, Naruto. Rejected kitten. As much as I would like new humans to kill, it's a big risk. Please don't. I just want to sleep peacefully. No, Naruto. We don't trust anyone else with chakra. If you do that, I'll start freestyling and I won't ever stop. I also vote no. Well, that's that, Naruto thought. Alright, guys, I won't give anyone else chakra, Naruto assured them. This world has no place for it. It will do more harm than good. Getting grumbles of agreement, Naruto resumed his news reading. It was really nothing new. Faunus writes, grim attack, the shortage, same old. But this was precisely what he wanted after all, a place where he could normally live without any stigma or prejudice against him. The bell of the shop rang, signifying the entry of a customer. Naruto looked up to see three people, and he would immediately tell that they were huntsmen due to the massive weapon one of them was carrying. As a shinobi with decades of experience, he instantly analyzed them for personal threats. The first one to enter was a man. He had graying black spiky hair, vermilion eyes, and a slight stubble along his jawline. Along with a red tattered cloak, he wore a gray dress shirt, black dress pants, and black dress shoes. He had what looked like a great sword slung on his back, but Naruto couldn't be sure. Any weapon could look like anything in this world. Naruto's skilled sense also caught a strong smell of alcohol and lots of negative emotions from the man. Naruto generally kept that ability of his deactivated, as he considered it a violation of privacy if it wasn't necessary or an emergency. But even then, some things and feelings got through to him, so even though Naruto couldn't tell exactly what emotions the man had, Naruto could confirm that he had some at least. Great, another drunk, Naruto thought in defeat. I'm going to kick his ass if he becomes a bother. The second person was a woman. She had a shoulder-length black red hair and wore a hooded cloak which was white outside and red underneath. Nothing else was visible due to the cover. She looked like a carefree person and did not give off as many negative emotions as the drunk did. The third person was also a woman, but she caught Naruto's interest mainly due to her appearance, which was quite beautiful, he might add. She had very light blonde hair tied back in a bun. Her eyes were bright green and she wore glasses. She wore a white top and a black high-waisted pencil shirt with black boots. Oh, the kitten has a crush, Matatabi teased in line with her cat-like personality. She probably had a similar grin, too. Her statement brought chuckles from the other Biju. If he were any younger, Naruto would have blushed, but he had decades of experience with teasing and women alike, being Jiraiya's apprentice. Good for you, Naruto. It's about time you found someone to love. Chomei began, a little somberly. And in this world, no one will care about you being a gin jerky. There's not enough history with us here. Yes, at the most, you'll be treated with respect for your power, not baseless hatred like before. Isobu added his to Rio. I know, guys, and I agree, but it'll take some time, you know? Naruto said, touched sadly, he was still hesitant to let people close to him after facing so much hatred and scorn. If the person he loved ended up hating or fearing him, Naruto didn't know what he'd do. There was always the question of his immortality as well, but that was easily fixed. He could simply move the Biju to a different dimension of his creation and fade away himself. He wasn't concerned about outliving his loved ones, but with getting loved ones in the first place. The Biju had tried to convince him to settle down, both in Remnant as well as the Elemental Nations, but Naruto was too afraid to trust anyone again. Naruto shook himself out of his sad thoughts when he realized that the pretty blonde woman was waving to him with a slightly annoyed expression. Yes, ma'am, how may I help you? The woman sniffed, seemingly displeased with his late response. She then spoke. I was asking if you had a table for three. Naruto raised an eyebrow at the tone she used. While not sounding rude, it was like she was correcting the behavior of a child. She was standing straight, her features schooled in a mask of indifference. The other two were nonplussed, as if used to this behavior already. He guessed that she was a strict person, strict kind of person. Naruto, being Naruto, decided to tease her a bit. Sorry. I was so enthralled by your beauty that I wasn't paying attention, he said while grinning and rubbing the back of his head, not ashamed at all. The very instant he said that, the drunk behind the blonde woman burst into laughter along with the other lady, who was giggling. Oh man, you must have balls of steel, the drunk roared, still cackling madly. The cloaked girl started giggling harder, but the most interesting reaction was from the lady herself. Her face had turned a slight tinge of red and her eyes were wide. She was blushing, could be either in anger or embarrassment. She seemed to take a moment until his words registered, and then, "Oh, what an uncouth remark!" she exclaimed a tad loudly for an indoor environment. How can you say anything so rude to someone you just met? How can I? Whatever do you mean? Naruto continued, mirth glint in his eyes. Is it a crime to appreciate your radiance when I see it? He asked, feigning ignorance. The woman was turning redder by the minute, so Naruto decided to end it there before she exploded and someone got injured. He wasn't kidding about her beauty though, so he wasn't about to apologize for it. Anyway, to answer your question, he clapped his hands, snapping the woman out of her embarrassed state. I do have a table for you if you would kindly follow me, he said, moving towards an empty table. He beckoned to them to have a seat, which they did. All the while, the drunk was howling with laughter. So was the cloaked lady, but her giggling was a bit more subdued. It was a good thing these were the only customers he had, or else they would be a nuisance. Just as the pretty woman was about to take a seat, Naruto pulled out her chair for her, bowing slightly. "Milady," he said, failing to hide an amused smile. He was expecting another outburst, but he got something else entirely. With what he knew so far about this woman, she seemed uptight and strict and a bit prudish. Naruto never believed in first impressions all that much, but he knew next to nothing about the lady. He wanted to get to know her, hence his advances, but the outburst never came. What he got was something entirely different. The woman blushed, nodded, and smiled beautifully. Such a gentleman. Thank you. And then she seated herself. The drunk fell off his chair, and the cloaked woman stopped giggling to stare in shock at the pretty lady. Said woman was meanwhile glancing through the menu as if nothing happened. Noticing the silence, she looked up and asked, "What?" The drunk had gotten up by then, his face taking on an incredulous look. Pointing accusingly at the pretty lady, he began, "What the hell was that?" he asked, baffled. "I thought that you would set him through the window for his comments, and you're thanking him?" The drunk was acting weird, making Naruto wonder exactly how drunk he was. The woman replied, "Well, Crow, you obviously know precisely little about me. This good man here at least had the manners to pull my seat for me, as chivalry demands." She spoke in a haughty tone. Thanking him is only right, after all. The now named Crow didn't back down. "But what about his flirting earlier?" The woman looked at the menu, suddenly finding it very interesting. It wasn't, in all fairness, that much of an unwelcome change. That's just a roundabout way of saying you liked it. And why is it so baffling if it did? The woman challenged. "A proper lady likes to be appreciated, Crow. Not that you would know anything about being proper, that is," she sniffed. At this moment the cloaked lady interjected. She had been looking oddly shocked as well, leading Naruto to believe that the blonde woman did not usually behave like this. She peeked her head out of her cloak and spoke. "But Linda, you never talk to guys in such a manner, and I thought that you hated flirting because it's uncultured or something." And also, the woman was cut off by Naruto as she was going into a rant. Naruto was just as stumped, so he asked as such, "I think what she means is that your early reaction was much different from this one." The woman Glinda averted her eyes at that. She seemed to take the time to think up a response. "I apologize for my earlier outburst. I was flustered," she admitted, still looking away. "I did not know the proper decorum with which to respond," she finished, and to Naruto she seemed almost shy. "He would probably get clobbered if you mentioned it, though." Not used to it?" Naruto asked, honestly confused. "Are the men around here stupid or blind or something?" He tilted his head, all signs of teasing gone. The implications of this statement were not lost on the three. Glinda smiled and blushed prettily as if pleased to be complimented again. Crow was looking close to collapsing in shock, while the cloaked lady was just as stricken. "Why, thank you for your kind words, Mr. Glinda said, looking to Naruto expectantly. "Naruto. Naruto Uzumaki. Pleased to meet you." Extending a hand to her, he was happy when she took it. "And who might you be?" Glinda actually blushed a little bit more at that and gave a demure giggle. My name, my what a well-mannered man. It's truly a rarity to see someone as well-behaved nowadays," she finished, still giggling. Naruto grinned at that. "Well, I can be pretty gentlemanly, you know," he stated, and immediately froze with widened eyes. Now he'd gone and done it. Naruto's verbal tick had slipped out. That was so embarrassing while talking to a woman, as if on cue. The entire table burst into laughter. Naruto actually blushed, further increasing their guffaws. Even Glinda was chuckling in amusement. Eventually they calmed down and introduced himself. "I'm Crow Bronwyn. Nice to meet you." Crow greeted with a lazy wave, more out of obligation than interest. "I'm Summer Rose, his teammate," the cloaked lady said boisterously. Naruto chuckled at her enthusiasm. "And I'm Glinda Goodwitch. A pleasure to meet you." Glinda finished with a friendly smile, which Naruto couldn't help but reciprocate. "Well, nice to meet you all, and what would you like to have?" Naruto said with his pad in his hand. He took their orders and went to get them filled. Throughout their meal, he engaged in conversation with the trio. He discovered that they were ex-students of Beacon Academy, which was a prestigious school in Remnant. They had graduated a year ago and were on some mission which Naruto didn't ask about. The three seemed to be in their early 20s. Soon their meal came to an end and all of them were sitting and chatting. Since the trio were the only customers in the shop, they had established a rapport with Naruto. He also gave them a free dessert each so that they could sit and talk. Summer opted for cookies while Glinda chose tea. Koro asked for alcohol but was promptly refused. After the meal, they were sitting in a companionable silence, which was broken by Naruto. So, Glinda, can I have your scroll number? I would like to be friends if that's alright with you. Naruto asked, getting straight to the point. He was never one for beating around the bush. Glenda seemed to think it over, but eventually she smiled and nodded. I would like that. You seem like a nice man. Ha, I'll be damned. Of course, Crow had to interject. If Naruto were honest with himself, he was getting irritated by Crow's comments about Glinda. She was a delightful and pleasant woman, and there was no need to be mean to her at every possible chance. Before Naruto could wonder where this protectiveness came from, the words had already left his mouth. You know, you should learn some manners like Glinda says, he said, making the woman turn to him. And I don't appreciate you being too crass to my new friend. Glinda was staring at him with something akin to awe. She never expected the man to stand up for her, and instead to ridicule her like most and join in on the joke. She knew that she was a bit strict than most, but she always tried not to come off as snobbish or rude. However, it still made her the butt of many jokes among her peers. No one saw past the first impression they got of her and got to really know her, but this man, within minutes of meeting her, had blatantly stated that he found her beautiful, not snobbish or rude or prudish, but beautiful. She had been complimented a lot before. She was a good-looking woman of 23 after all, but hearing it coming so nonchalantly from a male was refreshing. She knew he was joking, but the fact still remained. He'd spoken with them all the while being the perfect host and even given them a complimentary dessert and drink each, and he'd called her his friend after just 2 hours of meeting them. On second thought, he did seem like an outgoing person, she mused, who would make new friends left and right. Still, it was good to find someone who wasn't put off by her strict disposition. She would definitely like to get to know him better. The two tapped their scrolls together, exchanging their information. Great. Thanks, Glenn, Naruto explained, grinning cheerfully. Glenn? She asked, raising an eyebrow. You're my friend now, so I'll call you Glenn. I nickname all my friends, you know? Naruto explained, leaving out the fact that she was currently his only friend. Glinda seemed to think over this information and she nodded. Very well, I'll allow it. She smiled. Crow was choking on his spit by now and glaring at Naruto. What you mean, Blondie? That's how she is, all prim and proper, he slurred. Had he been drinking inside the shop? Still, I would appreciate if you didn't, and please don't drink in my shop. It's the middle of the day, Naruto said while rubbing the bridge of his nose. Why did he get stuck with all the drunks? His teammate Summer looked embarrassed that he was drinking again. Glinda was shooting Crow a disapproving glare. Unfortunately, this logic seemed to infuriate Crow even more. He got up from his chair, making Naruto tense in anticipation. If the drunk wanted a fight, he was going to get one. Oh yeah? Crow drawled. What are you gonna do about it, huh? Feed me to death? Crow, Summer admonished, with Glinda not far behind. Apologize to Mr. Naruto here, she chitted as if berating a child. Naruto idly wondered if she spoke from practice, but let that thought go. She then turned to Naruto. I'm so sorry for my teammates' actions, Mr. Naruto. As a team leader, I will take responsibility. She finished loudly with determination in her eyes. Naruto smiled at her as she reminded him of his younger days. It's no problem, Summer. I'm used to drunks and their antics. He slightly looked at Crow. And don't call me mister. I'm probably as old as you are. Summer lit up in curiosity. Whoa, seriously? We're 23. How old are you? She grinned. It seemed that she was opening up a bit more. The same. Not by a long shot, but they didn't need to know that. Hey, don't ignore me. I'm saying some important stuff here, hollered Crow. Naruto wondered whether he should just kick the guy out, but that would mean Glinda would have to leave while he was itching to punch something anyways. Say, Crow, Naruto began, how about a spar? He grinned challengingly at the end, making it harder to refuse. The two women were shocked at this turn of events and were going to speak up. Ha, I like you, Blondie. Crow bellowed, still intoxicated. But I'm a huntsman, you see. Wouldn't want to kill a civvy accidentally, he said, and the lady seemed to agree with him, getting visibly relieved impressions. Naruto decided to forgo reason and strike at the core, Crow's ego. I'm sorry, are you named Crow or Chicken? He jibbed, getting a glare from the man, and besides, I have to defend the lady's honor, don't I? He finished with a mock bow in Glinda's direction. She was not amused. Don't be stupid, Naruto. He might not look it, but Crow's really skilled. Glinda admonished him, begrudgingly admitting Crow's skill. Even while he's drunk, he could seriously hurt you, or worse. She finished. Then, a little quietly, she continued, I wouldn't want that. Naruto smiled happily at the thought of her caring for his well-being, but the mood was quickly ruined by the resident drunk. Yeah, listen to your girlfriend, Blondie. I don't want to hurt you. You seem like a good guy, so I'll give you a pass this time, he said in a cocky manner. Crow wasn't some kind of thug. He liked a fight as much as the next guy, but he had his self-control. If he started beating up every civilian who looked at him wrong, he wouldn't be fit to be a huntsman. Glinda looked a bit miffed at the comment, but before she could defend herself, the atmosphere changed. The dining area of the shop suddenly got a lot hotter and cozy. Homey atmosphere was replaced by something more sinister. Crow looked at his friends and found that they were breathing heavily. The room was tinted red, and it just seemed wrong. Like there was some danger lurking over their heads, and he couldn't tell or see what it was, and what he couldn't know, he couldn't understand. The air was laden with an oppressive pressure, and Crow was mainly aware of the sweat gathering on his brow, but he just didn't care. He was ready to attack at a moment's notice, but nothing was attacking him. There was just this uneasy feeling in his gut, but he couldn't find the source. Are you sure about that? Who the hell was that? Crow, in his intoxicated and worried state of mind, got even more worked up due to the demonic-sounding voice. He looked towards his colleagues, who were just as alert. Then he looked at Naruto. Were his eyes always red? Are you sure that you'll hurt me? Naruto spoke in that same deep voice of his voice now crimson, his eyes now crimson and slitted like a fox's. How can you know till you try? He finished, giving a fanged grin. As Crow was about to attack in a panic, the oppressive presence vanished, and all was right with the world again. Well then, how about that spar? Naruto spoke cheerfully as if nothing had happened. What the hell was that? Surprisingly, it was Glinda who shouted, this breaking her usual personality. I meant, how did you do that? She finished, regaining her composure and adjusting her glasses. Crow and Summer were eagerly listening and waiting for his answer. Naruto, for his part, merely tilted his head in confusion. My, whatever do you mean? Tell us what the hell that was, Blondie, Crow yelled. How can a noodle shop owner create such an uneasy atmosphere? It was nothing he couldn't handle, but Crow was still intrigued by the chef in front of him. Ah, but who was it that said I can't fight, Naruto rebutted. You're not the only ones who can, you know, he finished mysteriously. Where were you trained, if I may ask? Alright, Blondie, let's fight. Do you have any cool weapons? One can guess exactly who made which statement. Yes, let's. Naruto pointed to Crow. I have some weapons, but they're not that cool, he told Summer, who looked disappointed. That's a secret, he pointed at Glinda and winked. Glinda looked like she wanted to probe more, but was again cut off by Crow's boisterous yell. Let's take this outside, Blondie. I'm gonna kick your ass. Oh, how little he knew.